You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.
Bitcoin, Ether, Solana, Doge, and more. Cryptocurrencies and digital assets are taking the financial world by storm. This exploding market provides everything a savvy trader needs: volatility, volume, and liquidity, provided you know how to find it. That's where we come in. Welcome to the Crypto Rundown. Each week, we'll break down the latest trading activity, trends, and developments throughout the world's leading crypto derivatives markets. If it's moving the crypto markets, then you'll find it on the Crypto Rundown. The Crypto Rundown is brought to you by Amber Data. If you're entering the digital asset class, you'll need access to granular on-chain and market data from multiple venues to power research, trading, risk management, and compliance. Amber Data delivers comprehensive data and insights into blockchain networks, crypto markets, and decentralized finance, empowering financial institutions to apply traditional finance methods to digital assets. Amber Data eliminates the infrastructure setup, integration challenges, and maintenance headaches to access digital asset data, reducing cost and time to market to enter the digital asset class. Learn more and download their digital asset data guide at www.amberdata.io. Now it's time to dive into the exploding world of crypto derivatives. It's time for the Crypto Rundown.
All right, everybody, that music means we are back. Time once again to break down all the action in the world of crypto derivatives. Yes, it is time once again for the Crypto Rundown. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as from the network upon which all of you folks are binging. If you want to join us live, you want to check out awesome pro Q&As, we're going to have a banger tomorrow with our good buddy Dr. Vix talking all things unusual options activity and some hot off the presses. He hasn't even put this out yet. Hot off the presses research he wants to share with you folks about what's going on in the world of unusual options activity. Trust me, you want to check it out. And the only place to get it, theoptionsinsider.com/pro. In fact, you pro folks, we like you so much. We're putting out Crypto Rundown, doing it a little early, just for you folks out there, just so there's no waiting for you. The producers hate me right now. They had to scramble to get all the data ready for Crypto Rundown right after the option block. But we do this for you folks because we love you. As we keep on rolling right on into a little bit of the old Bitcoin breakdown.
It's time to explore the latest trending activity, trends, and developments across the world's leading crypto market. It's time for the Bitcoin Breakdown.
All right, everybody, let's get down to business with the Bitcoin Breakdown. By the way, of course, if you do want to join us live and check out all the other cool exclusives, theoptionsinsider.com/pro. The place to go to check it all out as we check out what's lighting it up in the world of Bitcoin. And you know what? A little bit of downside, a little bit of red on the screen this week. Hey, they can't all be bangers, can't all be winners to the upside, listeners. A little bit shy of 112.5 coming in to start the show, 112.469. That puts us down a little over 2,500, about 2,550 handles from where we were, I should say, a little bit north of 115,000 on the show last week. Not to say we didn't get higher in the interim. We had a nice little rally heading into the latter portion of last week. Bitcoin threatening 118,000 to the upside before giving back a lot of that juice. Of course, that was post-Fed. And we got into that wild move out there where we saw, equities rally in post-Fed. We saw crypto rally in post-Fed. We saw precious metals rallying post-Fed, which again, if you've been paying attention, is not really the way it's supposed to go. In fact, we had our good buddy Carly Garner on Twifo last week. She got into some heat with some folks on Twitter over her comments about how maybe gold is no longer a safe haven because it is kind of moving in lockstep with the S&P and with Bitcoin, which is not a thing you really want it to do if you have it in your portfolio. Now, you're not going to be mad if you're long stocks and long gold and they're both hitting new all-time highs. That's a great thing, but it's not really the reason you put it in your portfolio. You put it in there for the dark days when gold can kind of dig you out of the hole. And the fact that gold's hitting new all-time highs while the equities are doing it, while Bitcoin was flirting with them at least. It was kind of interesting times out there. Coming off that, obviously, a little bit right now to start the show. Let's get out to the vol. Remember, if you want to check this out for yourselves, all this data is pretty much available for free, so you have no excuse. Amberdata.io, the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires. If you did that, you'd see the weekly vol has kind of been hanging out at a fairly low level for a while, and it's still kind of hanging out at that level this week. It was at a 33 1/3 last week, 33 3/4, so a nominal difference week over week, listeners. Same deal on the monthly vol front. Bitcoin vol can't really seem to catch a bid and maintain it, at least for right now. 33 even is where we were on the monthly vol front last week, listeners. Almost at 34 today, 33.9. So a little bit of a tick up, but not a heck of a lot of action out there at the end of the day. Same deal on the 6-month vol front, 41.15 on the show last week, 41.65. So ticking up a whopping half a point. Getting out to the land of the skew, and there has been some more action, as you would probably expect, given that range I just broke down just since last Thursday. About 118 to the upside, now down to 112. Obviously, a little bit of downside movement, and that is reflected in our skew right now. It was -2 on the show last week, -6 on the weekly skew. And again, that weekly skew is a highly volatile metric. It's going to swing around intraday quite a bit. So hanging out right now as we're kicking off the show, -6, reflecting, at least for the near term right now, we got a little bit of bearish sentiment out there. Let's go on out to the monthly skew. A little bit more of a standardized metric out there. It was a -2 on the show last week, over -5 right now, -5.15. So getting decently bearish out there for the monthly skew, which is kind of interesting. Maybe showing, at least for the near term here, we're looking at or concerned about a little bit more downside to come in the world of all things Bitcoin. Now, skew is not a crystal ball. Doesn't mean we're going to plummet, listeners. It just means that's how the options are lining up right now. And then out to the hodler territory. This is something Greg has talked about when he's been on the show recently. I've mentioned it quite a few times. Since time immemorial, since really Bitcoin options were a thing, there was a premium to the upside. Why? Because hodlers want to hodl, they want to buy upside, they want this thing to run. These days, that hunt for yield has transferred into other products. We're also seeing quite a few more players enter the crypto and indeed Bitcoin options game just over the past year with the launch of IBITS. Brought a lot of new players to the crop. Guess what they like to do? They like to sell upside against their underlying. So we're seeing a lot of that. And what that has effectively and indeed collectively done is wipe out that premium to the upside, at least for right now. It is gone. It was gone last week, and it is even more gone this week. It was -0.5, which again, seeing that long-term premium turn negative, which means there is a premium from a vol perspective to the 25 delta put over the 25 delta call. If all of that is nonsense to you, make sure you're checking out the rest of our network, particularly shows like Options Bootcamp. That will get you up to speed in a hurry on a lot of this options terminology. It's not, again, not -10 or anything crazy. We're not showing a massive downside bid in the long term for Bitcoin options. It's just showing a slight premium. That in and of itself is notable, listeners, because forever since we've been doing this show, there was a bid to those calls. And that, at least for right now, is gone, which is kind of interesting. Again, could be indicative of many things, sentiment shifting, the influx of people who are hunting for yield. Greg has been on the show many times complaining about the fact that Bitcoin is not a dividend-paying asset, so you have to find your yield in other ways, and that is one way people do it, listener. So there's a lot of forces at work here. But in aggregate, they have combined forces to wipe out that bid to the upside, at least for right now. We'll keep an eye on that, listeners, as we keep on rolling out to the product I just mentioned, the vector a lot of you use to engage with Bitcoin options. It's IBIT. It gained $1.50 last week on the show, giving that right back again this week, down $1.50, hanging out right around $64 as we're kicking off the show. That ADV coming back to earth a little bit too. Still frothy, don't get me wrong. Nearly 600,000 contracts a day, 595. There's not a lot of options names that listed within the last year that can claim an ADV of around 600,000 contracts. So IBIT is in some rarefied territory, even if it is giving back about 25,000 contracts a day. But you know what? After today, that ADV is probably going to be going back up in the other direction, listeners, because IBIT roaring back to life, at least on the volume front, looking hot, looking spicy. 400. Actually, it just ticked again. It was at 460 right as we started the show, listeners. Obviously, something big just went up because now it's up to over 500,000. 544,000 contracts lighting up the tape out there in IBIT, listeners. That is an explosive amount of paper. We got to go see what's going on out here, listeners. Oh, looks like it might be a bit of a synthetic. The Nove 60 synthetic going up about 25,000 on the put, 25,000 on the call. So obviously 25,000 times each, 50,000 contracts total. And that's the case. That's not quite as exciting. But we also have 65s and 64s in October lighting it up. 65s going up about 12,000 times. It's like an average price for those of about $2. 64s, 15,000 times for about $2.50 out there, listeners. So if we get away from the some of the synthetic wonkiness, which again, buy and call, sell and put, same strike. It's done as a bit of a carry interest rate trade type, listeners. So again, not the most scintillating of paper for that, but volume-wise, it's more than just that, listeners. There's a lot of stuff going on out here. How about D70s going up for 3.25, listeners? Paper could have been overriding those. IBIT was right about here when they did that. So would you sell the 70 calls in IBIT for $3.25? Looks like somebody might have done that today 3,000 times, which again, getting back to what we were just saying, all this paper in aggregate is crushing that call wing. There's no juice left. So 3.25. So you're selling your IBIT at effectively 73.25 by the end of the year. Not a bad level at the end of the day out there. If you are looking at IBIT, listeners, let's look really quickly. 52-week high is a little bit shy of 70, 69.89. So 73.25 when you factor in that options premium. Not a bad level at the end of the day. Maybe you too would say sold to you. In which case, get out there while the getting is good. The vol pretty much unched from where it was and pretty similar to the 30-day vol we're seeing out there on Deribit right now this week. It's not a huge vol change, but a hot day out there volume-wise in Mara, in IBIT. Lighting it up. Speaking of Mara, I can let the cat out of the bag. Let's get out to Mara. This one had a wild ride last week. Just a week ago, we were talking in our pro chat about selling. Well, I was selling the 15 half puts, I believe. I think some other members were selling 16, 15 half puts as well. It's been a great wheel candidate for quite a while. Spoiler alert, those puts went out worth nothing, which is the goal, listeners, because the stock roared up to about $19.20 last Thursday. Just a huge rally out there in Mara. Coming back to earth a little bit right now. Got down to about 17. Actually kissed the 17 handle this morning. Got 17 exactly before rallying back to 18 now. So I guess that's one of those things. We're busy doing shows, listeners. We missed the good sales in the puts. That would have been the time, obviously, to do that. I see our chat talking about Mara 17 puts for a quarter out there right now. Let's see how high did those get. Those got up to about nearly 60 cents. That's not a bad do, as the kids say out there, especially given the history of what we've talked about with Mara and kind of some of the supports and resistance we've seen over the years out there. This 17 level, though, is kind of interesting. Again, was hanging out 17.75 right as we kicked off the show. It's up exactly $2 from where it was this time a week ago. So Mara roaring back to life. For some of our pro members who are looking, I have not gotten back into Mara this week. I want to dig into a little bit what's going on with this move a little bit first, maybe determine my levels out here before I rewrite. Also, there's no rush. This wheel trade has been a great trade for about a month and a half, nigh on 2 months. So no need to force it and get yourself into trouble out there, listeners. If you want, always good to take your time before initiating a new trade, listeners. Don't let FOMO drive you down the road of madness, listeners. But the hot trade out there today are the 17 halves. Go figure. It's kind of the strike we were vacillating around earlier today. They've gone up about 12,400 times today. So that's clearly where the action is. By the way, Mara, the ADV is 348,000 contracts and nearly 250,000 already on the docket today, listeners. So a hot day out there in Mara, probably going to hit that ADV, which in and of itself, that's up 41,000 from this time last week. So Mara, back on the docket out there. Have you been slinging Mara, listeners? Have you been down with this wheel trade that a lot of our pro members have been into? It's been an interesting trade, to say the least, out there over the last few weeks. Again, looking right now, it's like these 17 halves going up for prices around 66 cents, 60 cents. Are you a buyer at that level, listeners, or are you sold to you out there in Mara, maybe against some Mara that you already own. Either way, it's not a bad yield if that's what you're looking for, or if you want to buy them and let the dice fly. These are expiring this Friday, so it's all a straight weekly trade. Yeah, September expiring on the 26th, 17 half calls. About 12,400, average price 61 cents. Listeners, would you be buying them or sold to you? Obviously, that's the hot trade out there. As we keep on rolling, what else is hot in the altcoin universe? You know what? Let's find out together, shall we?
It's time to move beyond Bitcoin and find out what's moving the rest of the crypto marketplace. It's time to boldly venture into the Altcoin Universe.
All right, listeners, to the Altcoin Universe we go. Let's dive in. Let's start actually where we were this time a week ago, listeners. It's nice to have a baseline to see how things have evolved over the week. Last week, it cost you about $30.7 billion to break into the top 10. That got us to our old pal, Cardano. Coming in this week, it cost you $29.4 billion. So falling out of bed a little bit out there this week. That still gets you to our old pal, Cardano. Number 9, it's Tron, $32.4 billion. Number 8, it's Doge, $36.1 billion worth of market cap. Number 7, it's USD Coin, $73.9 billion worth of market cap. Number 6, it's Solana, because of course it is, listeners. $120.1 billion. Solana had an interesting run last week. Listeners will get to that a little bit later here in the show. Number 5, it's BNB, $138.25 billion. Number 4, it's XRP. So yes, number 4. The mighty have fallen. $171 billion worth of market cap for XRP. That means Tether regaining its number 3 spot that it was locked at seemingly forever. $172.1 billion. So it's still a tight race, neck and neck, between XRP and Tether, but no joy for the XRP holders out there this week. Number 2, it's ETH, because of course it is $503.3 billion worth of market cap, and the big dog once again, Bitcoin, $2.25 trillion worth of market cap. All right, out to the land of ETH we go, listeners. And you know what happens out there in ETH land? ETH gets a nice run. Last week it was nearly 4,500, 44.91 on the show. You know, if past is prologue, especially given everything else we've just broken down in the world of crypto out there, that ETH probably going to give a little bit of that back this week. And that is indeed the case, listeners. ETH kicking off the show a little bit shy of 41.75, puts it down about 320 handles from where it was this time last week. Vol-wise, you got a little bit of a similar dance out here to what we're seeing in Bitcoin, as in not a huge movement week on week. Weekly vol was a 62 on the show last week, 61.5 this week, so not a huge evolution there. Coming in a little bit more on the monthly vol side, 64.75 last week, 61.5 this week, so coming in 3.25 points. And the hodler vol hanging out 66 1/3 last week, 63.6 this week. So ETH vol coming in slightly on the week. Skew-wise, you probably would be forgiven for expecting a little bearishness to creep in. That's kind of what we're seeing, but not across the board. We were at -1.5 on the weekly skew last week. That's -4.5 right now. So again, that's responding to a lot of the intraday action we're seeing out there. Going out to the monthly skew, also looking a little bit more bearish this week. -1.3 on the show last week. -2.3 this week. And then going out to where the hodlers hang out, maybe something interesting. Maybe a little bit of a ray of sunshine out there for all of you looking for perhaps a data point to turn that frown upside down out there in the crypto markets, listeners, because that skew looking a little bit frothier out there than it was last week. Not a ton, but there still is a premium. That's the first thing that's nice. So the premium isn't gone in ETH like it is in Bitcoin. 1.25 right now. Maybe that will change when all of these ETFs launch. Maybe that premium will go the way of the dodos. Everyone harvests it to oblivion. But right now it's still positive 1.25. Not enormous, but it's something. And that has ticked up from our last show of 1.25, ticked up to 1.75 now. So gaining 0.5 point out there. So the long-term, the 6-month skew out there, listeners, actually managing to evolve a little bit this week which is always fascinating and kind of good to see for the hodlers, giving you a little bit of a ray of sunshine that perhaps longer term there are some rays of sunshine waiting for you out there. As we keep on rolling, let's kick it off in the land of Bitmine Immersion Technologies, aka Bitminer, or as we only have jokingly referred to it on the show, B-Miner. 55 2/3 this week, listeners. That puts it up about 2 2/3 from where it was this time last week on the show. So popping a little bit out there in good old BMNR, putting up 308,000 contracts on the tape today. So nothing to sneeze at out there. That's against an ADV of about 250,000 contracts, which in and of itself is up about 20,000 on the week. So BMNR getting a little bit hotter, a little bit spicier out there from a volume perspective. What is the volume, you might be asking? That's pretty much holding firm. It's at about a 121 on the show last week, up to about a 122 this week. So kind of unched on the week. But it is a spicy day out there on the volume front. Let's look really quickly, see what's lighting it up. It looks like it's the SEP 60s leading the dance nearly 15,000 times for about $2, as well as these are expiring this week, obviously, SEP on the 26th. Followed by number 2, we got the Nove 65s going up about 14,000 times as well. And those have an average price of 9.25, listeners. So a very, very interesting flow out there in good old B-Miner out there. Have you been slinging any of this one, listeners? Or have you been staying away? Let's keep on rolling out to a name. At least I know our good buddy Greg doesn't like to stay away from. It's Circle. Do you buy his hypothesis that this is the Netflix of the stablecoin era? Perhaps. Up to 140, up another 11 handles today. So managing to claw itself back from kind of the abyss it was hanging out at for a while to the downside. Putting up 59,000 contracts today. That's against an ADV of 118,000, which in and of itself is down about 23,000 from this time last week. So options volume has come back to earth a little bit. Still over 100,000 contracts. There's a lot of names that can't sniff that out there, listeners. So interesting stuff out there. What is the volume, you might be asking, in good old Circle? It's at an 86. That's down about 6 points from where it was this time last week. Let's look really quickly. What is the hot option on a decently active day out there in Circle, but not blowing the doors off? It's about 2,500 of the 140 calls, so at the money calls, expiring this Friday. Those went up for 512. Looks like we actually might have a 140, 150 vertical. That's interesting. So the 140 is trading about 2,500 times for 512, and the 150s, they could be trading just standalone as well. It could be a bit of a roll down, actually. 2,000 of those for $2.24 out there. I'm just looking to see. It doesn't look like it was a vertical. It's like they were just standalone trades. So interesting stuff out there. SEP 140s, 512, and the 150s going up. Similar size, not a spread though. $2.24 for the 150. So like either of those, listeners, as we keep on rolling, we can't talk ETH without talking our favorite joke name out there. Is it a joke? Is it serious? I don't know. Kind of depends how you look at it. It's good old ETHzilla, listeners, trading $2.62, up about 17 cents out there this week. I know more than a few of you, I think, have been flirting with this one, either as a covered call or a short put or a combo, both a wheel contender out there. You know, it's putting up some volume if that is the case. 35,000 contracts on the tape today. That's against an ADV of 16,000, which is down 2,000 out there. So that's kind of interesting. ETHzilla lighting it up out there today. I guess breaking the 2 half strike is the secret sauce for them. What is the hot option out there? 7,700 of the 3 calls in October. So need to run a bit to get there, listeners. And looks like they traded for an average price of about 20 cents. So OC3s, listeners, 20 cents. ETHzilla around 262. Would you be a buyer or a seller at that level? Looks like they could have been a seller, actually. Looks like they could have hit the bid for 20 cents, in which case they're trying to take all the yield they can get. Interesting stuff out there. We also have the DS5s trading 1,800 times today for 15 cents, listeners. Lifting the author. Dece 5s, 15 cents. My goodness, that's a lot of funky paper. You folks been slinging ETHzilla out there? Listeners, hit us up, let us know. Let's get out to some of the other names you folks have been slinging out of here. Then we'll get out of here for this Just the Facts, ma'am, edition. Well, Just the Facts Plus, because we're hitting a lot of stuff out here on the show today, listeners. Solana had a nice run out there as well. Got up to almost 252 last Thursday, which was a hell of a level. Haven't seen that in quite some time. Coming back to Earth now. On the show last week, it was 233 and a quarter. It's 221 and a quarter right now. So down about 12 handles. And of course, down even more from that 252 level. That's a lofty level. We had Solana below 150 down to 1 and a quarter and below not that long ago. So hell of a run out there in Solana. XRP, as we said earlier, kind of giving up the ghost enough to fall below Tether again on the market cap list. 287 when we kicked off the show. It seemed like it was locked at $3 for the last few months. So giving up about 13 cents out there. Doge, 26.5 cents last week, about 24 cents this week. So coming off about 2.5 cents. Litecoin, 113.11 last week, 105.31 this week, down $7.80. Cardano, 86 cents, pretty much exactly last week, about 82.4 cents this week, so down about 3.6 cents on the week. Polkadot, 413 last week, 3.99 this week, down a whopping 14 cents. And everyone's favorite, Shiba Inu, unfortunately, falling back to earth a little bit. It was a million zeros, 1299 last week. This week, a million zeros, 1209. All right, that music means we've come to the end of the crypto rundown for this week. Is there a crypto product you've been slinging options on or hoping to that you want to hit us up about? Maybe you have a question or a comment or a trade you saw or a trade you want to put on. Hit us up. Let us know. There's a lot to unpack in this ever-evolving world of all things crypto derivatives out there. Are you just slinging an IBIT like everybody else? Are you diving in on ETHzilla? Are you perhaps an MSTU degenerate like our good buddy Greg out there? A lot to sling out there aside from just buying spot Bitcoin and ETH and riding it, even though that's been a decent trade this year as well. Either way, hit us up, let us know. That's going to do it for us on the Crypto Rundown today. Back again after the closing bell to break down a hot day in the world of options on the Hot Options Report. You want to check that one out. If you want to get it in your ear holes instantly, theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go. No waiting for you folks. And of course, you get behind the scenes access, behind the velvet rope, if you will, to tomorrow's awesome Pro Q&A. I do believe that is finalized and scheduled now with none other than the doctorist of VIX. He's unveiling his latest research just for you folks in the Pro. That is pretty freaking cool, if I do say so myself. And I think you want to be there for it. And if he's nice, maybe he'll tackle a few of your questions, even though he is still bitter about you folks giving the victory in the Pro Chat to his nemesis in life, Mr. Vixologist, on the first ever Vol Deathmatch. Either way, that's popping off tomorrow on the Pro. Be there or be square, theoptionsinsider.com/pro. Then make sure you're subscribed to the full network wherever you get your podcasts. A lot of great stuff coming to you throughout the week on the network until we're back again next Monday. Another episode of the Crypto Rundown. Oh, yeah. And stay safe out there, everybody.
The Crypto Rundown is brought to you by Amber Data. If you're entering the digital asset class, you'll need access to granular on-chain and market data from multiple venues to power research, trading, risk management, and compliance. Amber Data delivers comprehensive data and insights into blockchain networks, crypto markets, and decentralized finance, empowering financial institutions to apply traditional finance methods to digital assets. Amber Data eliminates the infrastructure setup, integration challenges, and maintenance headaches to access digital asset data, reducing cost and time to market to enter the digital asset class. Learn more and download their digital asset data guide at www.amberdata.io. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions@theoptionsinsider.com.